Alrighty, let's start today off with GBP USD. H4 is going to close in approximately 1 hour. How do I check that? Again, if you go to H4, a lot of you have been asking me this question. So I'm going to keep repeating until all of you get it, alright? When you go to H4, right, put a vertical line like this, then you switch to H1. Then you will see how many H1s has it been already for H4, right? So for example, in this particular example, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So if this closes, that means H4 will close because it's 4 hours in H4, correct? And you have 4 H1s. So this is the new H1 candle that just opened. So that's why I said in approximately 1 hour, H4 will close, okay? Excuse me. Oops, let me delete this and let's go back to H4. Now, for a GU, we have our sell zone up here and our buy zone down here. Why am I marking this as a sell zone? Because we have an engulfing sell meets an engulfing sell over here. Even an engulfing sell over here and here that was able to make the price close below the zone, right? Even if we switch to daily, it is also in an engulfing buy that failed, created an engulfing sell, did not over here, but created an engulfing sell over here. So this is also a sell zone on a daily perspective, all right? So H4 and daily, hence that's why it's quite a good zone for a sell, a potential sell. Now, for our buy zone, we have an engulfing sell that was respected over here, then price finally broke here. But am I taking this engulfing buy? No, because this closed below. So I'm taking this as my first engulfing buy because it closed within the zone after the break. All right? Current price is in the sell zone. So what can I potentially do? Just gonna mark it like this. All right. Current price is over here. If it decides on H4 to respect the zone, then potentially we can catch a break back down or a sell back down from the key level itself. But if it breaks up above, closing above the zone, then potentially it could test the higher zone, right? The price can either shoot up in one go or retrace back into the key level for a better buy up after breaking the zone. Okay, vice versa, if it does not retrace back into the key level but decides to shoot down all the way to our buy zone, and if H4 respects it, then potentially it could bounce back up. But if it breaks below, then potentially it might want to test a lower zone, right? Either it can shoot down in one go or retrace back up into the key level for a better sell down. Now, mind you that there will be a high impact news on GBP pairs in approximately 27 minutes, and then also a high impact news on USD pairs later in the evening. All right, so if you're not comfortable trading with the news, simply just stay out of it and just monitor, right, how it moves during the news. So when you slowly build up your confidence to it, you can enter. Okay, so that's for GBP USD. Where do you monitor for entry? Either M5 or M15. All right, now we move on to the next pair. Whoa. Okay, Euro JPY. This is also one of my favorite pairs, okay? Because once you get the right direction, you will just keep getting it right until you break your win streak. But EJ is one of the safe pairs, I feel, for me to trade. We're using engulfings. Okay, so for EJ, we have an engulfing sell meets not an engulfing sell, but this sell candle did close within, but I'm not going to take it because it has a gap between the closing of this candle and the opening of this candle. Okay, so I'm not using that. So this is an engulfing sell zone. Then we have an engulfing buy meets another engulfing buy and another engulfing buy. So the buyers here are quite present and quite strong also, trying to keep the price above. Okay, current price is over here. What can it do? Let me screenshot that. Okay, if it decides to come up into our sell zone and respects it, then potentially it could drop back down. But if it breaks above, then potentially it might want to test a higher zone. Vice versa, if it decides to break or drop all the way down into our buy zone, then potentially we might get a spike back up if H4 respects the zone. But if H4 breaks below the zone, meaning it closes below the zone, then potentially it might want to test a lower zone like this, okay? Where do you set your SLs? If you have quite a capital to float, then you can set it 10 to 20 pips, above or below these zones, or you can set 40 pips from your entry. All right, so once you enter in the key level after the small time frame setups has formed, then you enter, then you count 40 pips from there. You can do that too, because 10 to 20 pips above or below the zones, sometimes H4 zones are quite large, quite huge. So if you don't have the capital to float, you can use the 40 pips from entry to set your SL instead. All right, so that's for EJ. Now we move on to AU. Okay, AU, our sell zone up above and our buy zone down below. Why is it a sell zone? Because it's an engulfing sell. This engulfing sell was so strong that it just shot down. All the H4s that follow was just a sell, 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 sell. No breakage of this continuation at all. Hence, this is the H4 that I want to monitor for a potential sell, and the current price is at. All right. Then we have a buy zone down here, which is an engulfing sell that failed. Price came back, created an engulfing buy, showed wicks rejections over here, and another over here where it touched the key level and flew. Okay, so we have an EFEG buy and just engulfing sell over here. Now, what can it do for AU? Screenshot that. If H4 decides to respect this zone, right? If it closes within or even creates an engulfing sell, meaning this H4 has to close below this blue candle's low, then potentially we can catch a sell back down. Mind you, the high impact news on GBP pairs will be in approximately 23 minutes. Okay, so wait for the news to pass first before you click anything, because if H4 decides to respect this, then potentially we can catch a sell back down. But if H4 breaks over this, then we will use the key level for the opposite direction. All right, so if H4 decides to break above the zone and close above the zone, then potentially it might want to test a higher zone, and it might retrace into the key level for a better buy up if it decides to retrace. But if it doesn't, then it can just shoot up to the next level in one go. Okay, if the price decides to just drop all the way into the buy zone and respects it, then potentially we can catch a better buy back up. But if it breaks below, then we know potentially might want to test a lower zone like this. Okay, so stay alert, keep your eyes peeled for any opportunities. If you're not confident with the news, wait for the news to pass, then make your decisions. Trade smart, trade wisely, and if you don't find any setups in the Euro session, don't worry about it, okay? Wait for the US session to open, and then you can find your opportunities then too. I'll try to update this in a few hours or so, because my gosh, I am tired and I would like to take a nap. Okay?